Hello and welcome to our webcast for May 5, 2017. My name is Christian Lebré and this is Amy Asbrook, the director of Toujours Vivant, Not Dead Yet.
Hello.
Toujours Vivant, Not Dead Yet is a non-religious organization by and for people with disabilities and our allies. Our goal is to inform, unify, and give voice to disability rights opposition and assisted suicide, euthanasia, and other ending of life practices that discriminates against people with disabilities. We have today's topics. First, federal report on medical assistance in dying is released. That was our first. And the second one is researchers appointed to study expansion of euthanasia and other assisted suicide. So Amy Asbrook will talk about it.
Okay, thanks. So the first federal report on medical assistance in dying is released.
Yeah, the federal one,
right.
Because there was a few, the Quebec one, the Ontario one,
right.
Provinces.
Right, some other provinces have released partial reports, but this is the first federal one.
Yeah.
And the information that they've used is very limited, so the information in the report is also very limited
and not standardized.
Right, exactly. On April 26th, the federal government released its first interim update on medical assistance in dying report, covering the period of December 10th, 2015 to January 31st, 2016. This includes 6 months that Quebec's law was in effect from December 2015 to June 2016, before the federal law came online. Yeah, and we'll get to what else is not included, but you know, it's kind of a sketchy report.
Yeah, it's look-alike, but it's not, let's say a full report. It's a partial report. Right. Even if it's for a full year, it's partial.
Right, exactly.
You will see.
Right, and we'll, at the end, we'll give, in the text version of our webcast, you can get the link to go and look at the report yourself.
Yeah.
According to the press release issued by Health Canada, 2 more interim reports will be issued covering the periods of January to June 2017 and July to December 2017. After that, the federal government expects its permanent monitoring system to be in place, which will not only report on the number of Canadians accessing the service, but also track how effectively the eligibility requirements and safeguards are operating. So the federal government hasn't even proposed its regulations yet, but they're saying that by the end of the year, their new system is going to be in place that's going to get information from doctors and nurses and coroners, and that it's going to you know, provide all this information that we need to find out how the program is going. That's what they claim.
That was clear.
And we haven't even seen the draft regulations, but
yeah, so
we'll see.
We'll see. Yeah.
Yeah. The total number of medically assisted deaths in Canada between December 10th, 2015 and December 31st, 2016 was 970. This does not include a small number reported in Yukon and Nunavut, which were not reported due to privacy concerns. Which
because so few population in some area.
1 or 2 people, then everybody's going to know who they are.
Yeah.
The people who were given permission by courts for euthanasia or assisted suicide between January and June 2016, because if you remember, the Carter decision gave the government a year to come up with a plan before assisted suicide became legal, and then it gave an extension of 4 months.
Yeah.
And during that time, people could have assisted suicide with permission from the court.
Curiously, that was a time where it was working, let's say, acceptably.
Right.
Because people have to appear in front of a judge who take some decision about the law itself.
Right, exactly.
There is a kind of an inquiry, even if it take only 1 or 2 hours.
Okay? Right, right. there was one more safeguard under that system than there is now, and that was a better system.
Yeah.
Something that we had wanted, but oh well. And finally, it doesn't include the euthanasias in Quebec between December 9th and December 31st of 2016, because Quebec's report goes only to the December 9th, and there were probably...
Yeah. And in the Quebec report, they just forgive to talk about the people who use the
permanent palliative sedation.
Yeah, permanent. Yeah, they doesn't think it is a euthanasia.
Right.
Sorry, guys, it is euthanasia.
Right, and actually, none of this covers terminal palliative sedation.
Yeah.
And given the rate of euthanasias in Quebec, it could be a substantial number that were euthanized during the last 3 weeks of the last year.
Yeah.
Of this 970, only 3 people elected to have assisted suicide. The rest were by euthanasia. And that's kind of interesting because in Oregon, where everybody has to do the act themselves, they have to take the pills, the numbers are a lot lower than they are here.
Yeah.
So that's something to
because at the end, everybody wants to live. Well,
right.
But let's say most of people want to live.
Well, yeah. And, you know, part of the thing is people are turning over responsibility for the act to somebody else when they have euthanasia. And
yeah, assisted suicide is just saying, kill me, kill me, kill me. I don't have the courage to do it myself.
Assisted suicide is when the person does it with help.
Yeah.
So the person actually takes the final act.
But euthanasia,
right.
You ask for euthanasia, you said, kill me, kill me, kill me. Right. I don't have the courage to do it myself.
Right. And it's ironic because these people are saying they're taking control of their lives.
Yeah. So, okay.
Right. Of the medical assistance in dying that occurred outside Quebec, because that's how the report is laid out. It's a little
just Quebec is
they didn't
out of the of this report.
Right. 50% were
but we are not apart.
Right, okay. Right, exactly. But Quebec is included in Canada. It's just not in this report.
A strong Quebec strong Canada than Quebec inside of Canada.
Right. 50% were performed in hospitals, 37% were done at home, 6% were done in long-term care facilities, and another 37 procedures were done in palliative care facilities, doctor's offices, or at an undisclosed locations. So palliative care facilities tend not to want to do assisted suicides because it doesn't go with the principles of palliative care. Exactly, the mandate. And the thing that's a little worrisome is what is this undisclosed locations, you know?
Yeah. Somebody buy a travel to the moon or I don't know.
No, it's just, it's a little worrisome that people aren't telling where this is happening.
In their car.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah. The average age of people receiving medical assistance in dying is 72.27 years.
Which is lower than the expectancy of life of Canadian.
Yeah. The gender split among those receiving assisted suicide and euthanasia was 49% women and 51%, no, I'm sorry, 49% men, 51% women.
Yeah, it's kind of normal.
Yeah, it's close to 50-50.
Yeah.
The underlying medical conditions cited were 56% were cancer related, 23% were neurodegenerative, meaning either ALS or multiple sclerosis or something like that.
This is a very high number.
Right.
It's not normal at all.
Right. It's a lot of people, you know, multiple sclerosis, people can live for decades with multiple sclerosis.
It's been their standard of life was so low that they prefer to die.
Right.
So something happened with the standard of life of those people, not the willing of dying.
Right, exactly. These weren't general, you know, not all.
And we know many people who are in this case, and normally they like to live like every human.
Right. 10.5% were circulatory or respiratory system, and
which is either
heart disease or lung disease or that kind of thing, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease.
Yeah.
And 9.5 were from other causes, but they weren't specified in the study, so we don't know what those other causes were. But another thing to note, a footnote in the report further states.
Oh, footnotes are very
yes,
important.
Got to read the footnotes. Cases where the underlying medical condition was not reported, approximately 8% of all cases, have not been included in this calculation. So what is this? The central reason for people to have medical aid in dying is some medical cause. But how is it that that is not being reported in
close to 10%? Even right. At the beginning, where people are, a little bit aware that they have to do carefully and so on, we have 10% or something.
Right.
Really there.
This is probably information that was not available from the province, and it just shows how superficial this report really is, that it doesn't have that information in it. Medically assisted deaths accounted for less than 0.6% of all deaths in Canada from June to December of 2016. That's more than the state of Oregon, where it accounts for 0.37%. But less than the 2015 figures for Belgium, where it was 1.83%, and the Netherlands, where it was 3.75%. Remember
that our law are close to be copied over Belgium, right. Which is very close to the Netherlands one.
Right.
So,
and this was the first 6 months.
Yeah. So it will raise exponentially to look alike those numbers very soon.
Right. Right. I think we can expect something like that because the number is continuing to increase. And, so much for exceptional.
It was supposed to be very exceptional procedure, once or two a year. And we are already at 1,000 more.
Right, exactly. Neither Ontario nor British Columbia, the two provinces with the largest number of euthanasias and assisted suicides, could document how many requests for assisted suicide were received and how many were declined. So there was a category in the study of how many requests were received total and how many people were declined, and Ontario and British Columbia couldn't give that information. So again, this report doesn't have a lot of very crucial information. So viewed by itself, the report looks fairly complete. However, what is important is what's missing.
Look.
Right. There is no information about the living situation and other circumstances of the people who were killed. There is also no information about whether a detailed assessment was done to determine whether the person was subject to external pressure or whether other safeguards were complied with. So, we have no information about this, and we're not going to have it for another year and a half, basically.
And depending on what will be the data they will include in their requests.
Right, exactly. Health Canada promises more detailed information once regulations for its monitoring program are adopted.
But be aware, there is something not clear in the application. If the assisted dying is a care, this is provincial jurisdiction.
Right.
But remember, this is an exception over the law of homicide law, okay? And this exception, because it's homicide law, is federal. So the federal have all the right to ask for information.
Right, exactly.
But they have to be sure not calling it a care.
Right, which is what Quebec does, and that's why there's tension between the federal and provincial
already
governments.
some kind of trouble.
Right. So the Health Canada is stating that their future reports will include a broader set of data, which will enable a statistical profile of all requests for medical assistance in dying and their outcomes, i.e., not limited to cases in which the service was provided. Further information on the medical circumstances and other characteristics of those requesting and receiving an assisted death. Findings regarding the application of eligibility criteria and safeguards and trends over time. So they're saying that that information is going to be gathered. And they're also saying that their reports are going to be based on data and information provided directly by physicians and nurse practitioners and pharmacists.
So everything will go very fine every time, because when something goes wrong, you doesn't report it.
Right, because as we said last week, when something goes wrong, doctors aren't going to report it. Aren't going to report what they did. Let's see. And finally, the information may be the reports may be supplemented by information from coroners and medical examiners, and that's actually now pretty much where Ontario is only getting their information from coroners. Yep. So, like we said, the information in this report is pretty sketchy, and we're not going to have any more detailed information about it for another year and a half. So
far for a scientific approach.
Right, exactly. If you receive a copy of a print copy of the text for the webcast, you can there's a link to the report, and at the end, I'll give you our email address that you can write and get a copy of it, of the print version of our text. Okay. Researchers appointed to study expansion of euthanasia and assisted suicide. And here's where the problem comes in about not having enough information. Before Canada has any information about whether the safeguards on medical assistance in dying are being followed or are effective, research is already underway to expand the program.
So the first part is not even settled properly.
Right.
We expand it. So look for trouble.
Right. We don't even know what's going on with the program very much. And yet it's already being pushed to be expanded. There was the case with the man who killed his wife because she had Alzheimer's disease, and that was put through the media. There was a case of a man who committed suicide because he wanted assisted suicide and wasn't eligible, and that was, everybody in the media was saying, oh, people with mental illness should have the right to assisted suicide. And, you know, every time something like this comes up, the media are pushing it. So they're trying to expand the program before it even is shown whether it's working or not. The Council of Canadian Academies has announced the appointment of its panel on medical assistance in dying to be chaired by the Honorable Marie Deschamps, former Justice of the Supreme Court of Canada and adjunct professor at McGill University and the Université de Sherbrooke. The panel will be divided into 3 working groups to focus on the 3 possible areas for extension of euthanasia and assisted suicide. The 3 areas: Dr. Don Davies, Associate Professor of the Department of Pediatrics at the University of Alberta, will chair the working group on requests for medical assistance in dying by mature minors. Dr. Davies is also Associate Professor at the John Dosseter Health Ethics Center at the University of Alberta. Dr. Kwame McKenzie, Director of Health Equity at the Center for Addiction and Mental Health, CAMH, will chair the working group on requests where mental illness is the sole underlying medical condition. Dr. McKenzie is also Professor of Psychiatry at the University of Toronto and CEO of the Wellesley Institute. And finally, Dr. Harvey Schipper, Professor of Medicine at the University of Toronto, will chair the working group on advanced requests for people who have dementia. So those are the 3 people who are going to chair the 3 working groups. And again, the process is those working groups are going to seek input from interested parties like us. And and anybody who has something to say about these issues. So we're going to be alert to when they're soliciting input, and we'll make the input, and we encourage everybody to pay attention, and
Yes,
we'll let
please.
you know when and how.
We will need everybody input.
Right, exactly. Interesting to note, several articles have already condemned Dr. Schipper's participation on the panel as
Why?
a strident opponent of assisted suicide.
Like us, but
However,
the other two are.
The working group also includes supporters of assisted suicide, such as Jocelyn Downey and Joan Gilmore.
Okay, do you want a kind of balanced committee or just a one-side committee?
Right, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, he's strident, but they're, you know,
they're strident the other way around.
Right.
So I think it's let's say fairly balanced committee, 2 against 1, but at least you will earn both sides.
Right. Well, it's hard to know how balanced it is because there are 43 people on the committee, and I don't know all of them, and then I didn't.
Yeah, there's really few who are against.
Well, there's not a lot of information on these people's standpoints on assisted suicide. So, you know, do a Google search for the person's name and assisted suicide, and there isn't always something on the internet that talks about whether they've written on the subject or what their opinion is. So you can't always know what their opinion is, but the point is that if a person is opposed to assisted suicide, then they're strident. But if a person is in favor, then they're just, you know, a normal person.
Which is not.
Right. Okay, so also we provided the link in the print copy of our notes of our text today. So I'll give you the contact information so you can write us and get a copy if you're not already on the mailing list. For more information on the subjects that we discuss, you can go to our Facebook page at facebook.com/toujours vivant, not dead yet. You can visit our website at tvndy.ca. You can email us at info@tv-ndy.ca, or you can follow us on Twitter @TVNDY. Thanks to Christian for helping out.
Thank you, Amy.
Thanks to you for being there, and we'll see you next time.
Yes, see you next time.
Bye.
Take care. Bye.